Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Microsoft's Java for Beginners series. This is part two of string formatting. In part one, I described the concepts you'll need to format strings. And here in part two, we're going to show you some of the methods and the ways that you actually convert strings. And we're going to show you some examples in action. We're going to go use Visual Studio Code and some of its interactive features to highlight what I've built here. So I've built just one example class, I imported some packages, and I've got some methods that I created to build the examples based on the scenarios I described in part one. So the first one is just simply converting a car to a string. To do that, you take the character wrapper class, which takes a primitive data object car, wraps a set of objects, or wraps it into an object, and allows access to a set of methods that you can use. One of those methods is toString. So basically, it just takes a single character car and converts it to a single character string that you name here. String to car is very similar, but in this case, what we do is we use car@, which is part of the string class. Remember, a car primitive data type only has one character in it, so you're going to create one character car data type from the string. So if the string is longer than one character, you need to provide the index number. In this case, I'm going to take the first character in my string and convert it to a car primitive data type. Next up, strings to car arrays. So when you actually create a string object in Java, it creates an array of cars, but you don't have access to that. If you need an accessible array of cars from a string, this is how you do it. You can use the toCarArray method of the string class, and it just basically takes the entire string and copies it into a new car array. Now, what if you actually want to convert just part of that string into a car array? Well, that's when you can use the getCar method of string. The getCar method of string allows for 4 parameters: the start of the string that you want to convert, the end of the string that you want to convert, the name of the array that you want to convert the string to, and the index specifying where in that new car array you want to start creating elements. So right now it's 0, meaning that it's going to create an array of 8 characters in a car primitive data type array. If I put 10 here, it's going to create a 18 element array, and 8 of those elements will be populated with the values I provide, and the first 10 elements will be empty. Now, getting a little more complicated, there are times when you want to interact with a stream. They might have an application that consumes a stream. So how do you actually pass a stream of car array to that application for consumption? First thing you do is you create a string class cars method. And once you've got that done, you can use map to obj to conditionally select the elements that you want to have in that array. And toArray will just generate an array from that stream. So this is a way to consume it as well. The reason why I have toArray here is I'm actually going to use this little for here to generate a result. And once again, you just comment these out or delete them if you want to use this in production, and just simply return a stream from this particular object. Next, let's look at a few different ways that you can convert string arrays to strings. In this case, we are consuming a pretty easy string array, which basically has everything well delimited inside. There's every value in the string that we want to split is in quotes, and it's separated by commas. So in that case, if you got a really simple array like that, you can just use the arrays toString method. So arrays is the class that you're going to use. You import Java util arrays for this, And then you have the toString method, which just basically explodes this into an array for you. Or sorry, it contracts it into a string for you from an array. There might also be times when you want to evaluate each element that you're going to add into your array. In that case, you can use string builder, and here's a similar, it's the same string array basically, but in this case, we're going to go through and we're going to select each one of those elements as we parse through the string to decide whether or not we want to actually create this element inside of the new string. So if you do want to add it, you would put your conditions here basically inside the for, and then if it passes your condition, you would do a string b, a string builder append into the string array that you've created. So maybe you want to build a string from a string array, but you actually want to add some extra things into the new string when you build it. Now remember, when you create a string, once the string is created, it can't be changed. So before you create it, what you want to do is iterate through the elements inside of this array and figure out which ones you want to use, how you want to split it up, and maybe you want to add something to the beginning and the end. In that case, use string joiner. In the example I show here, this is the delimiter that I'm going to use to separate the different values when I put them in the new string from the string array. And I'm going to add some square brackets at the beginning and the end of my new string from this string array. So it's just a way to sort of format things when you're pulling them out of an array and add a few things that weren't in the original array. Next up is another stream example, and this one's pretty straightforward. Let's say you've been provided with an array and you want to create a stream, and you just want to basically take everything that's in the array and create one single string that you're going to pass in that stream. That's what you do here. So in this case, we are producing a string. We have a stream using Java util stream, which must be imported. And we use the collector to build the string from the string array. Pretty straightforward. All right, so let's go through a couple examples as well of strings. So you get provided with a string and you need to produce a string array. In this case, here's the string before it becomes an array. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the elements inside. You just use the string split command, so the string class split command. It's going to use whatever delimiter you provide, in this case a comma, and it's going to produce, in this case, 5 elements inside of a new array. Let's say you don't have such a clean string that you need to produce an array from. Maybe it's got some non-standard delimiters. In this case, I've got 2 spaces. So each time there are 2 spaces inside of the string, we want to create a new element in the array. Basically what you do then is you create a pattern class and you use pattern compile and provide it with a delimiter that you want to use to decide where the original string gets split up. So it's going to use split pattern, which I defined here as 2 spaces. It's going to say pattern compile, and it's going to use the split pattern value that I have there. And it's going to return a array basically based on the pattern that I provide. String array, pattern, and we're going to use the split command now with a pretty straightforward pattern to break up that string into an array. All right, so the last example, we're actually going to use a string tokenizer to break the string into tokens. So once again, we've got a array here, but it's not each element that we want to split is just separated by a comma and not quotes, as some of our original simpler examples are. So we're going to use a string tokenizer. You can create a set of delimiters, and you can break up this string on a per token basis. So basically what we're going to do is create the string tokenizer. Then we go through the elements one by one, and we decide whether or not this is a token or not that we want to add into our new array. And once we're done, once has more tokens has been satisfied, we'll have a new array based on the tokens and the delimiters that we specify. All right, so that is an overview of how you can actually use code in Java to split and create and manipulate and convert and format strings, cars, and car arrays. I hope that was useful. And my name is Brian Benz. Please do check out part 1 as well, where I cover a summary of all the different scenarios and why you want to actually use this code. And feel free to use this code. Enjoy. Okay, folks, so that was part 2 of formatting strings. Please check out the rest of the topics in the Microsoft Java for Beginners series.